I am live now. Yes. Hello, everybody. We are live. Welcome to Inside the Squat Rack. Let's give it a minute and see who joins up. Nice. Yes. Start to join. Hey, what's up? Give me a thumbs up if the sound is okay. Sharon, there he is. Yeah, I love it. Thanks, buddy. Give me a thumbs up if I can hear me. Just giving a minute for that some more people join up. Yeah, sick. Thanks, buddy. Nice. Everyone tracking who I have on the show tonight, I think. Good old boy, friend, Savage. Just give it another minute, let some more people join up. There he is. Yeah. Let's bring him on. Go live. Hey, there he is.
How you doing, buddy?
Hey, I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
Good, man. Good.
Yeah.
I'm
Can you hear
impressed.
me okay?
I'm impressed that I was able to actually log in here.
You nailed it, buddy. Nailed it. Nailed it.
I'm not exactly a tech guru.
You got it. Just a simple 37-step process.
Yeah, right. You doing good?
Yeah, I'm well. You
Awesome.
guys getting some snow up there?
Cold. Yeah, not a lot of snow rate kind of this week, but yeah, really cold. Down
Yeah, same
down to
here.
about a little cold for the outdoor cold plunges right now. I'll tell you that.
My 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 bath is frozen rock hard again, and it's back to the old ocean.
Yeah,
The
well,
ocean's the
good for
great
you.
equalizer.
It's healthier anyway.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's good. No, that's awesome. I really am excited to chat with you tonight, and I can't thank you enough for taking some time to spend with me. You know,
Yeah,
I
of
know your
course.
time is really valuable.
Of course. No worries, buddy. Look forward to it.
So just for the people watching, just a little explanation. Inside the Squat Rack is a series that I've been running through the winter, and it's just a series of talks with dirt bikers from all across the scene, all different skill levels, all different ages, all different sexes, specifically about fitness within the dirt biking scene. You know, and the two words that keep coming up are capturing perspective. You know, I think everyone's journey through fitness is different. Everyone has highs and lows differently, and comes from different backgrounds. And I think it just makes us better as humans, and it's important to share this knowledge. So gathering these perspectives from people is, I think, really important. You know, I'm a professional fitness coach, athletic development coach, specifically for dirt bikers, and have my own history in athletics. But it's always good to get those different angles from folks that have had their own journeys. So on that tonight we have Scott Thornton, ex NHL guy, extreme dirt biker, and generally just really cool fucking dude. So thank you, Scott, for being here.
Absolutely. I'm honored to be part of it.
Yeah. Um, what the first question that I've been asking everyone just to get us going is, what's your age?
I am freshly 54 right now, as of a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, yes, that's right. Um, and you know, I would go into like a list of accolades and accomplishments that you've had throughout your career, but that's not really what we're here for. And to be honest, I'd probably fuck it up. Uh, so we're going to skip that. But we really want to dive into a few key points of fitness. You know, you have definitely with your career a really unique perspective, I think. So first and foremost, like, what would you remember as your very first kind of exposures to what would become your fitness journey?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, I'm the baby of four boys in our house, and my two oldest brothers, who are 9 and 10 years older than me, they both raced motocross. So, when I was a kid, and they were in, their teens, I guess, they were kind of training for their races even back then, this is in the late 70s, but we had a weight set in the house, and my dad would get them on the bench press and throwing some weights around, and they were jogging and things like that to kind of get ready for weekends. And
Right.
that was kind of my initial kind of exposure to it. And then my brother actually got me into martial arts when I was about 13, I believe. I started doing karate after school every day, and so you're not building up a big sweat, but you're doing push-ups on the knuckle push-ups on the hardwood floor, and you're doing, your legs are burning, and you're doing some work in there. And they had a gym in there, so I'd watch some of the older guys and what they're doing, and so I was always kind of around a gym. And then, truthfully, like when I get into high school and made the high school football team in grade 9, I joined a gym in my hometown of London, and I kind of ran into some older guys. These guys were in their 20s, but they kind of took me under their wing, which was amazing and really taught me a lot. I trained there for just a school year, but I learned a ton about just like the way muscles are working, and working more bodybuilding style training back then. But
Yeah.
push and pull and working opposite muscles. And, I learned a lot, and I still use a lot of that to this day.
Yeah.
It was a great group of guys that really helped me out.
That's incredible. So like also what I hear from that is like a non-specialized style. Like you didn't just jump right into hockey. It was like a really
Yeah,
spread out through a bunch of different sports.
for sure. And it was, we like even into junior hockey, which is, pretty competitive here in Ontario. I was drafted as a 15-year-old, and, left home and went and played in Belleville. I played junior hockey, and even then we weren't really serious about fitness. We were
Yeah.
doing it. We were riding the bike, and kind of working on some weights and doing some squatting and things like that. But it wasn't really that serious. It was a bit of a different era,
Yeah.
back then in the 80s. Um, but when I turned pro, things changed. My first couple of years of playing pro, I realized that everybody's big and strong and fit, and
Yeah.
and I had to really step up my game to keep up.
Absolutely. Um, just staying back with your younger years for a minute. Uh, when would you have started playing hockey? Like real young?
Like youth hockey, I was about 3.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
when you're one of four boys, and
Yeah.
mom and dad bring you to the rink, and you spend the day at the rink. So yeah,
Right.
I was a rink rat, and I was on the ice as soon as I could skate.
And you said your dad had a weight set in the basement. Well, how old were you when you first hit a bench press?
Oh God, I don't know. He probably had me
Like
on
three and a
on
half?
an empty bar. Yeah, probably 4 or 5 years
Yeah.
old. For
Nice.
sure.
Yeah. Just working on getting the callus built up on your hands like right
Yeah,
away.
yeah,
Yeah.
you got it. See, the funny thing, kind of a side story, but my dad passed away maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I guess, and that old weight set was still in his basement. And so I have that old steel bar and
No
some old
way.
steel plates. I have it hanging in my gym up on the wall like a trophy. So yeah, that's been around a long, long time.
Yeah. And and think of the like implications that weight set had on you throughout your career. Setting up those first weights. Like I remember the first one of the first gyms I would go into. I didn't get into fitness till way later in life. I was not an
Yeah,
athletic kid, and I'll never forget the benches with the foam, and the seats are all cracked, and
yeah,
it's like the fucking mics have been at it,
yeah,
and just shitty old gear. But
yeah.
you learn.
You get the work done.
Uh, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Uh, Were your parents athletic?
My dad was. I mean, I just think it was they were just too busy raising kids. My dad played some men's league hockey, and he would jump on the dirt bike track, once a year. I think the dads were they did like a dad's race at the track. So I remember my dad doing that. But both him and my mom, they're full time factory workers and
Yeah,
trying to run
yeah.
around with four busy boys, and I don't think they had a lot of time for themselves to play sports, but my dad was certainly athletic.
Yeah. And especially with the four boys, athletics just to burn energy levels so you go to sleep at night would have been massive.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, we lived outside, when we were young, like not like today's kids maybe. We ran the streets, we played road hockey, we played, chase out in the park, and so when we did come in, usually when the street lights were on, that's when we had to get in the house, and
Yeah,
you're pretty tired. Have some food and a bit of homework and go to bed.
yeah. It's a really interesting upbringing, and there's a lot of kind of comparisons of what to the kind of today's standards, a lot different for sure.
It's a lot
Um,
different. Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting that all those changes can happen, but also like people are still becoming more like the achieving higher levels of performance with kind of a different upbringing than that. Like there's been kind of two shifts there of kids. Uh, I mean, don't get me wrong. There's still a lot of kids that are out there getting after it in those sports, but is it just shows that you don't necessarily like even myself included. As I said, I didn't play sports as a kid, and is still able to achieve a reasonable high standard at certain points.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
this is a good part of all that perspective, you know.
You also probably had the mental strength to get there and do what you needed to do.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Um, this next question, I've asked everybody, and I have thus far got some pretty short answers, but I suspect that might be different for you. But um, have you ever had a coach, and whether that's not necessarily a fitness coach or a hockey coach, but any coach, that really left a mark on you and impacted you? That's something that stayed with you over the years. Do you ever have a person that really kind of struck a chord?
Like certainly in the fitness world, one of my first strength and conditioning coaches in Edmonton when I played there, his name was Curtis Brackenberry, and Brack was great. He was a former player, super fit, very knowledgeable, and I was, when we used to go send home for the summer, in your off season, and they give us a booklet, like a training program, and most of it back then was like global gym machines that you had to use, right?
Yeah.
So, Brack called me, asked me how I was doing. I was only 21 or whatever back then, and I said, I didn't have any equipment. I trained in my basement, so I said, I don't really have all the stuff on the program. Like, how do I get creative or whatever? And Brack jumped on a plane and he flew to Ontario, and he came and spent a weekend with me, and we basically made a gym. Like he just kind of got super creative, and we had like timbers, and I was carrying rocks, I was doing pull-ups on trees, I didn't have a squat rack, so I would do all my squats on like a 4x4 timber beam. So I'd walk on it like a gymnast kind of, right?
Right.
And so I was doing all kinds of balance work, all in bare feet. Um, and we just found ways to kind of work around the program, and it was a great lesson. Like it just allowed me to get super creative with my fitness, and also allowed me to kind of understand what stimulus I was trying to get out of something, and then
Right.
I would just kind of replicate it or use what I had to make it happen. So years and years and years later, obviously, I got into the CrossFit world and, some strongman training and things like that. And it all kind of came full circle to me. I was like, oh yeah, I've been doing all this stuff for a long, long
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
It was super cool. None of it was static. I was never laying on a bench doing anything. I was kind of always outdoors with my strength stuff, and then I just go down in the basement and grind on a stationary bike when I needed my cardio work.
Yeah. Wow. That's it. I love that. I enjoy those styles of workouts as well. And I think that from as a coach, I try to educate people on what the goal is that we're trying to achieve, and give people the freedom to get there, and kind of empower them to get there, and make those decisions of like, okay, we need to work like a push pull movement, but we don't, for example, but we maybe don't have a bench press, or maybe don't have like a lat pull down,
Right.
or something. But the more we can teach people about kind of what it is we're trying to achieve, and take away those kind of the boundaries of like, you have to do bench, you have to do fucking pec deck, you got to
Yeah,
fly,
yeah, yeah.
you know, you,
Well,
I try
it's
to trend
anatomy.
away from those.
You're teaching them anatomy, really,
Yeah,
and going back to, like I said, my very first gym with those bodybuilder style workouts. I mean,
yeah,
I was learning what a pec was and what a delt was and what lats were.
yep,
And, when you're 14 or whatever, you have no idea what the name of it, like a glute or a
yeah,
quad or whatever. So
right,
these
yeah,
guys were like anatomy teachers for me, man. They just taught me all the names of the muscles in the body and
yeah,
how they function.
yeah,
And then you can get creative once you kind of understand the basics.
exactly. And I think that's vastly more powerful and beneficial to a young athlete, especially, is just the knowledge of like what we're trying to do, and
Right.
like less putting them in a little box saying like do this, you
Right.
know, because that shows also when I see people traveling. Like if I work with an athlete that's at home for 6 months and then they start racing, and now they're in hotels everywhere, they have, if I've done it right, they've already have that knowledge of like, okay, I can work around this. I can still do the program
For
and
sure.
achieve the goal without that equipment. You become a lot more resilient to change, and you can just kind of glide through it,
Absolutely.
with that kind of outlook, which I find is really
For
powerful.
sure it is. Yeah.
Um, any other any other like a coach or an influence or a person in your life that really kind of stuck with you? And the reason I ask that is I think that, as a coach, or as an even just as an adult, or and like you're referencing those 20-year-old bodybuilders, you kind of influential moments for young athletes especially can be really short. You can have a 5-second conversation with a kid, and you don't know necessarily if that's going to stick with them or not.
Hmm.
They're kind of selective of what they pick up.
Yeah.
But if they do pick it up, I want it to be the right message. I don't want them to take away the wrong thing. And so I spend a lot of attention on what, how
What you're
those moments,
saying.
yeah,
Yeah.
and because they can be really short-lived moments. And even at the dirt bike track, if you're, I was at a track a couple of years ago, and standing with my buddy and his kid at the start line of a dirt bike race. And then there's another kid with his father, and another kid with his father, and like down the line. And it's not even what that kid is listening to his father say. He's listening to what other fathers are saying. Like, and who knows who they're meeting through that like whole weekend of racing.
Hmm.
Uh, and I just think that we should all kind of pay respect to the fact that these kids are picking things up. So if you have an opportunity to like, you
Yeah.
know, get in the gym and do strength training, if that's the message I want to get across, then I want that to be my kind of message, because you
Yeah.
never know. You could influence someone along the way.
Yeah. 100%. And as you say that, I think about my martial arts experience and the sensei in the gym. His name was Ken Talek, and I still remember him. And Um, I've ever since then, I've told everybody to put their kids in martial arts just because you start to understand like the discipline and you respect movement and um, perfectionism, I guess, in your movements. And when you're doing a kata or a block or a strike or a kick, I mean, it's very precise, all of those movements. And, um, you become very detail oriented, I think, at a very
Mm.
young, influential age. And,
Yeah.
when I got into the martial arts because of my brother, my oldest brother, Jack, joined, and he's the one who kind of brought me and got me into it. And, it's a critical age, that sort of 12, 13, 14-year-old kids when you're deciding kind of which friend group you're going to follow and what you're doing. And for me, I left school every day and found a way, either a bus or a bike, and I got to the martial arts gym and did classes every day after school. My parents never got home from work until 5:30 or 6 o'clock typically, right? So there's those
Mhm.
hour and a half, 2 hours after school that you can get into a lot of shit.
Yeah.
And I was
My
very
favorite time.
fortunate that, yeah, I was very fortunate that I found a positive outlet, and and I just started to respect movement and understand detail, and that served me. It was a great lesson for me later when I got into professional hockey. It was like everything is detailed. It's the angle of your stick, the angle of your
Yeah.
skate, and you're 2 feet out of position and is a big deal in hockey. And, so you start to respect kind of every little detail of it. And,
Yep.
I really think I just learned that at a young age, in that gym and watching my brothers and the way they acted. They led by example. I didn't want to
Yeah.
let them down. They were good mentors.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. It's great to hear that. Um, how long have you been riding a dirt bike?
I guess maybe about 7 years now. I think actually the years are ticking by.
Mhm.
I've always been on motorcycles, but it was more street. Like I
Yeah.
bought my first Harley. I grew up in a Harley Davidson family too, so I bought my first Harley when I was 19 when I got drafted, and then I had a Harley up until COVID.
Yeah.
I've always had street bikes and done a ton of touring on those. So completely different world being in the dirt, but
Yep.
I understood what a clutch is and things like that. So um, but riding off road in the trees with the boys is probably about 7 years now, I think.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's the great stuff.
Still
Uh,
a beginner, still learning.
yeah. Always, always a learner, always
Yeah.
a student. Um, what are the kind of styles of workouts that you're doing now, like say in the last like year or two?
Yeah,
I know, no, I caveat that with I know that you've been through like a lengthy knee issue and some other
yeah.
stuff. So just kind of walk us through what you would kind of outside of the surgery, what kind of typical workouts would you be doing?
Yeah, it's a bit of a hybrid. They actually have a name for it now, which is a hybrid athlete,
Hmm.
which has become kind of trendy or whatever. But
Yes, it has.
um,
Yeah.
but I mean, I've always been into long distance. Like I've always mountain biked and cycled, and I trail run and things like that. So I've always been into sort of the endurance or the cardio world. And but as a hockey player and a so-called power athlete, obviously moving weight and moving weight fast was important for us. So
Yeah.
as I was into CrossFit for a long time. I actually owned a CrossFit gym um,
Right.
here in Collingwood for a while. I'm just a bit old and broken. Um, so I've kind of gone back into, I do one sort of like CrossFit style workout every week, meaning that I'm on the clock, um, high heart rate stuff and moving weights, light weights, but I'm pushing some weight around. But I also split like cardio and strength training now. You know, I'll do a bike ride or a mountain bike ride, or I'll go for a trail run 2 to 3 days a week, and then I strength train 2 to 3 days a week as well. and then I split up my strength training, just upper and lower body, and even my lower body, I'll split that and do, like a more kind of posterior chain on one day and more kind of quad dominant stuff on another day. And
Right.
so it's a bit of a kind of a mix now. But
Yeah.
the one thing that I have learned all these years, I learned how to listen to my body.
Yep.
Um, I'm pretty dialed in with what I need, and if I really need to just like stretch and kind of roll out and have a bit of a chill day, and I'll fire up the sauna, and that'll just be an off day.
Hmm.
I don't have training camp to worry about, so
Right.
I don't have any big fitness goals, so to speak, of or work
Yeah.
towards. Um,
Right.
so I have the luxury of taking a day off here and there if I feel like I need it. But
Right.
usually when you're mixing things up, I still train probably 6 days of the week for sure, and
Yeah.
try to get a sweat every day in some capacity.
That's amazing. Especially that you've kept that, not only retiring through an athletic career, but just for anybody to maintain that through all ages is really empowering, and I think really beneficial from a health perspective. Obviously, it's proven to be healthy. Um, Personally, I think that mixing it up like that is a really beneficial thing to do as well. Typically, when you see someone, well, this is a pretty broad stroke, but I find maybe more often when I meet people that have injuries and soreness from working out, like, my shoulder's sore, this is sore, that's sore, and you dig into what they're doing, they've been doing the same program for like
Sure.
20 years, right? And their range of mobility sucks, and uh, their flexibility sucks, their joints are really stiff. So a way to, because they've been doing like whatever it is, that one genre for a long time. So mixing it up is a really good way um, to move the stress around your body, so you're not stressing that same point all the time.
Yeah, and you'll see that with, like, I have buddies that are runners or
Yeah,
just
exactly.
cyclists. I mean, you're going to see it in their world a lot.
Yep.
My so-called running buddies they're always battling something,
Yep.
hamstrings or hips or knees or ankles, and I'm always preaching to them like, dude, you need to get in the gym once in a while. You need to get
Mix it up.
stronger and
Yeah,
mix it up a little bit,
absolutely.
and
Yep.
but that's a tough thing for them to buy into.
Yep.
Lifting weights is
It
not easy. That's the thing. It's a bit of a fight,
it is.
and it's a
Yeah.
lot easier just to go out your door and go for a run. It's
It,
hard to lift
it's
weights.
it's easy to go out and do what you're comfortable doing,
Sure.
right? And if like my buddies that are like ultra marathon runners, or just like regular intense runners,
Yep.
they know that they're comfortable there. They know, like, this is how I put my shoes on, this is the clothes I wear, this is the music I listen to, and this is what I do.
Yeah.
And so when I'm like, come and hit some weights with me, it's the unknown to them, and they're not as good at it. So you lose that kind of
Right.
confidence versus, and that goes for like all kind of athletic things when you're really good in one category, and then you move to another and you kind of lose that
Yeah.
confidence, and it can be a little intimidating. Another reason why programs like what you were explaining, where you're hybrid, you're mixing it up. You're running, you're jumping, you're sprinting, you're lifting, you're swimming, you're playing sports. All of those things, I think, keeps your confidence up because you're used to being in areas that you're not good at, right? And there's
Yeah, and trying to maintain, like,
yeah,
as I said, I'm on the downhill slide of the age, and so I try to hang on to the athlete that I used to be, and by that I don't mean like I'm trying to be like I'm 25, but
right.
I just mean like I want to be athletic. I want to
Yep.
be able to run on an agility ladder. I want to be able to box jump. I want to be able to jump rope.
Yeah.
And
Forever.
I think as long as you're always doing that stuff, then you're always going to have the capacity to do it.
A
You know,
hundred percent. A hundred
but if you
percent. I
take
agree with you.
if you take 4 or 5 years off and come back, it's going to be very difficult. And I'm not saying don't try, but it's going to be hard,
It
and
is.
so back to the tuning in thing, like I just have a feeling, one day I'll be in the gym and I'll be like, you know what, I haven't jumped in a while. Like a legitimate 2 feet leave the ground at the same time.
Yep.
That's a jump. And I'm like, God, I haven't done that in a while. I should broad jump, or you
Yeah.
should do a box jump, or or jump
Yeah.
rope even, and regain kind of some of the fast twitch skill again, and
Yep.
then I then you feel like you kind of got it again.
Absolutely. And I think I couldn't have said it better myself. I'm a big, big promoter of exactly what you said. Just that whole your body in almost all directions is in the kind of use it or lose it state, right? And when people that aren't necessarily into sports and maybe they get like an office job where they're sitting a lot,
Hmm.
they end up going like 30 years of not sprinting, not jumping, not jumping down from something like
Yeah,
off of a high point, doing ladders
yeah.
and those kind of stuff, and then they slip on the ice or they slip down the stairs and they take a
Hmm.
fall, and I think those are the like kind of statistically more apt to get an injury from those things because they
Sure.
haven't been practicing that. And then if they do go get a coach at a certain point, and the coach is like, "Okay, I want you to start hopping or jumping at a scaled down to their level," they're really afraid of that because they're like, "No, that's what hurts me." And I'm like, that only hurts you because you haven't been doing it,
Sure.
uh, right? So maintaining that is, I think, really, really, really important.
I'm going to add to that because I have some buddies that coach a lot of kids, and they're kind of shocked with how unathletic a lot of the new kids are that are coming up. These guys are high level hockey kids playing AAA
Yeah,
hockey in Toronto, 12, 13 years old. But you ask them to do some agility work or box jump and rotational work, and they're just so clumsy and unathletic.
yeah,
Um, so it's not necessarily an age thing either. It's just like
right,
use it or lose it. And these kids are already starting to lose some of their natural athletic ability. Even though they're
absolutely,
excelling in their sport, they're losing
yep.
their athletic ability.
Yeah, it it speaks to that the specificity of it,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
the it being
yeah.
specific to one
Right.
thing versus kind of
That's
multi-dimensional.
right.
Um, like you said, growing up playing, just like running around the streets and playing baseball, playing hockey, playing sports and lifting weights, and just doing it all
Yeah.
is works the nervous system a lot, which is all that coordination piece,
Yeah.
and just general athletics, along with normal joint health and reaching those
That's right.
rotational pieces and the extent of the range of your motion.
Yeah.
You start to lose it pretty quick, and people don't realize it until it's often becomes very difficult to gain it
Yeah.
back later on in life. So I'm really happy to hear you say that. Um, you mentioned something that I wanted to circle back to. Um, I know you've had a really tough career. Really fatiguing on the joints and muscles. You've been through a ton of surgeries, injuries. What would you say? Let's just talk a minute, I guess, about recovery.
Sure.
What would be kind of like your most memorable recovery tactics over the years, and maybe some of your like go-to recovery methods now?
Um, yeah, you're right. I think I've had 17 surgeries, either during or after my career. So I do know a fair amount about long-term kind of rehab and getting back to fitness. But I definitely there's a couple light bulb moments I had. One is I'll tell you as a player, late in my career, I broke my wrist in a fight and had a cast on. I missed 9 weeks. And typically, and I was 37 years old at this point. Um, Typically, if I would have been out in prior years, I would have just crushed treadmills, like ran sprints on a bike, like that kind of stuff, right? And then, but I had a strength coach in LA who said, listen, why don't you try something different? And So I'm like, yeah, I have nothing to lose. Sure, I'll follow you. And anyway, so we ended up doing a ton of strength work rather than treadmill and bike. So I was squatting, I was jumping, and again, it was a wrist injury, so I could do a lot of lower body stuff.
Yeah.
And 9 weeks later, came back onto the ice, and I was amazed at how good I felt on the ice. I couldn't believe it, and I was like, "Shit,
Hmm.
man, where were you?
Yeah.
20 years ago when I first started playing. I wish I knew this."
Right.
But it was interesting that I didn't need cardio as much as I expected I needed
Right.
in the sport, and I had already been playing 17 years. So that was a
Hmm.
big light bulb moment for me. Um, and then the other, like, the biggest lesson I guess I've learned through all my kind of rehab stuff, and most recently the broken leg that I suffered a year ago racing, is it's mentally it's really really difficult to stay in the fight every day,
Yeah.
and so you can't allow yourself to think too far ahead.
Right.
Anytime I would look out at, holy shit, I've got 3 months on crutches. um, that would kind of bring my spirit down a little bit. So I had to really sort of focus in on that day. What am I going to do today? In the beginning, you're just trying to get off pain meds, trying to get up and move around the kitchen, trying to get yourself a coffee. Like,
Hmm.
so you have all these little victories throughout the day, and that's what I would really start to focus on rather than feeling sorry for myself and thinking about 3 months from now. So
Right.
stay in the fight, I guess, is another um, term, that we would kind of use, and just focus on the day-to-day stuff. And before you know it, a couple months go by and you're starting to feel better. You're coming around.
What do you think it was, going back to your wrist break?
Yeah.
What specifically about that strength training do you think kind of pushed you over that edge to really recognize it as a recovery piece? Was it, um, were you working some like grip strength stuff there, or working around that, or trying to avoid the area?
Well, with that injury, there, like, um, it was a wrist, so I had a cast on, so I couldn't do much initially with it. But there was an interesting thing. Like, my strength coach used to make me do like dumbbell bench presses with my good arm, and he would
Hmm.
always have me move. He would always have me move my broken arm, like, through the movements all the time.
Right.
And it was his philosophy, and I don't know true or not, but he was like, your brain doesn't know that you're not lifting weight on your left side. You can cheat
Mhm.
that system for a while, and you can still kind of maintain,
Right.
the mental connection, I guess, to the muscle.
Right.
So we did, we did a lot of that stuff where I would just go through the motions with that broken hand or whatever.
Right. Right.
Um, and then, but as far as like the conditioning for hockey, it was less like cardio work and more strength training, squatting and lunging,
Yeah.
and I was shocked at how much my conditioning came up with just by doing strength work.
Yeah. That's incredible, isn't it?
It was like a
To
cheat code.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's definitely a balance. You don't want to swing that pendulum too far, but it does, moments like that do give you a very um, uh, obvious reaction, that you can kind of store. To be talking about, like, right now, how many years ago was that? Like, a long time, and you're
Yeah,
still
yeah,
recalling that as
yeah.
something that was important. Um, what
Years
about
later,
things?
years later, I did an Ironman when I retired, and there was a guy by the name of Brian McKenzie who, at the time, he started the CrossFit Endurance protocol, and that was, I think, the beginning of the hybrid athlete. Where you're lifting weights and you're doing cardio work, but it was short and sprints and things like that, right?
Yeah.
So I followed that methodology to train for Ironman, and was shocked at how good I felt. You know, most of my training runs were under an hour. Most of my rides were under 3 hours.
Hmm.
but I was still strength training. I think I did a deadlift PR like 3 weeks before Ironman or something, and then
Wow.
went and there was no muscle breakdown. So your positioning and your posture and everything was really good.
Right.
And,
Right.
that's the stuff I think that breaks down before your heart and lungs break down is usually your muscle fatigue breaks down.
Absolutely. I think so. Yep.
Which, yeah. So anyway, it was another kind of eye opener for me is just sort of training methodologies to get the work done.
What's your take on, excuse me, other recovery methods like I know you're into the saunas and ice baths, but there's that list is really long of other methods, like TENS machines, red light therapy. Any of those things you have experience with, or any? What's your take on any of that?
Whatever is the easiest for you to access. That's my take on it. I've used everything and any of it, especially as a pro, you have access to a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I really like massage. Like I honestly think a good massage,
Yep.
um, like a full body massage. Just
Right.
turn your brain off, fall asleep if you need to or whatever. That's amazing. Um, But movement for me and walking is another like way underestimated way to recover.
Yep.
You know, Whenever my back feels tweaky or whatever, I just go walk the road, and I'll do 5K or so on the road and seems to reset my hips and my
Yep.
whole back kind of comes back into position. And so for me, it's movement. I like to kind of roll around the floor and do sort of yoga, sort of stretching and movement flow and things. And if I'm doing that consistently, I sort of recognize potential injuries. If
Right.
you're all of a sudden you got
Yep.
a hip that's tighter than the other one, it's like, ooh, I got to look after that one now.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So preemptive work.
Right.
But honestly, recovery for me, like I love walking. I'm a big fan of walking, man. Just get out there and go. And in the winter, it's snowshoes and things. And I feel like the body wants to just heal itself if you're out there
Absolutely.
just kind of walking through the woods.
Yeah. Um, that's really interesting. My take on that, I think that all all recovery starts with blood flow.
Sure.
Uh, Blood is what is going to bring nutrients, oxygen, and everything to your muscles. It gets there through blood, and it also blood is what is removing all the bad stuff.
Yeah.
Those like dead cells and the injured pieces is getting recycled through your system. So whether you want it to or not, circulation is what drives repair and
Sure.
recovery. And I think that it like hits the nail on the head when you talk about walking, walking or light cycling, swimming,
Hmm.
any of those things that can just promote circulation uh, are really important to drive that, and very underestimated. But
Yeah.
also, if walking is kind of at one end of the spectrum, if you look at sauna and like cold treatment, that's just an enhanced version of the same thing.
For
You
sure.
know, like the what that hot cold cycle does with an ice plunge. I mean, there's a lengthy list of the benefits of ice, like cold baths and ice plunging. But specifically from a circulation standpoint, you're getting your circulation really moving in the sauna, and then you go and you shunt it off in the ice and everything contracts, right? But your
Hmm.
blood is still flowing, so it kind of pools up in certain, not pools up, but it's restricted in flow, so it has a kind of a time to catch up.
Yeah.
And then when you go back into the sauna, it's now just released that kind of like an elastic
Yeah.
and very much circulate it around, like influencing it to circulate around your body more.
Yeah.
So that cycle,
I'm a huge fan of the contrast therapy. I do probably 3 times a week here. I have a sauna
Yeah.
and a cold plunge outdoors, and I do cycle it. So I'll do 15 to 20 in the sauna, and then my cold plunges are anywhere from like 90 seconds to 3 minutes, and for me, I don't time myself in the cold. It's more about controlling my breath. So
Right.
as soon as I feel like I've adjusted
Yeah.
and I'm doing really long 7-second exhales and I'm feeling kind
Yeah.
of comfortable, I
Yeah.
feel like the stimulus has already worked. And then I get out and I'm back in the sauna. And I usually do 3 cycles every time I go out there, which is about an
Yeah.
hour, give or take. Um, and you're right, man. Nothing makes me feel better than that. Like,
Yeah.
especially when I finish in the cold, I just feel great, like ready to take on the day. There's something real psychological about it too. There has to be, and I'm not
Absolutely.
I'm not too scientific about it. I just know it works for me, and I
Yeah.
use it a lot. Um, but I was trying to make the point is that not everybody's going to have that,
Exactly.
at their house or whatever. So for
Right.
sure, I think walking can be super beneficial for people.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's if there's a message to take away to anyone, it's just um, pay attention to
Move.
circulation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Move, lubricate the joints, and get circulation to the muscles. There's back in the day we talk about old school training tactics, and recovery always used to be. Um, I mean, for like major injuries, it was always rice, right? Like rest,
Yeah.
ice it,
Ice compress. Yeah.
elevate it, and compression, like squeeze it, compress it, elevate it, and freeze it. Looking back, like that's all been debunked. I mean,
Yeah.
part of it's right, but it's missing the other half of then heat it up, right? And
Right.
get that circulation going. But back in the day, it was just like, fucking
Sure.
tape it up,
Ice
freeze
bag.
it, and
Yeah.
you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Uh, and I'm happy that the culture around that has changed. And although ice feels nice at the time, really want people to pay attention to the fact that ice is great and you do need it, but it needs to be used in conjunction with the heat and that cycling. Even here at the house,
Yeah.
if I've got a nagging injury, just like a little electric heat pad and a bag of peas and going back and forth, hot to cold,
Yeah.
versus just wrapping it super tight with ice on it and leaving it like that for as long as you can.
We lived in ice bags for years on every injury and just
Yeah.
numb the
Oh yeah.
pain, right?
Knees,
So,
hands,
yeah,
feet.
yeah,
Yeah. So I'm glad that shift has happened away from that. Um, let's talk for a second then about using fitness specifically for dirt biking.
yeah.
How,
Ooh.
yeah, how, what's your take on that? Do you think it's important to use fitness to assist your dirt biking? And
Oh my
if
God.
assuming yes, why?
Yeah, man. I mean, obviously this is your world, so I'm not trying to pump your tires at all, but hugely important. And I think a missing ingredient for a lot of, certainly, um, for kind of the age groupers, most of the people that I've met, and I'm not trying to insult anybody, but most of the people that I've met don't really train. Some of my buddies, my friends
Yeah,
here, we all kind of
yeah,
train, but it's kind of the beer drinking culture and sitting around the campfire, which is amazing. I absolutely love it. I'm gonna have a beer around a fire too. Um, but especially as we get older, man, like it's all about injury prevention to me. And to me, like the more fit you are on a bike, obviously skill too. Like you need to develop your skills, um, but the more fit you are means the less mistakes you're going to make on the bike, which means the less crashes I'm going to have, the less falls. And to me, that means I can keep riding a bike, longer and longer and longer. So Having said that, I broke my leg racing, but
Shit
you
happens
know
too.
that's still going to happen, right?
Yeah.
But typically, I have always used fitness as an asset, even as a hockey player. I did, and I think you know fitness makes up for skill for in the short term in a lot of cases, and um, I think everybody should be doing some bare minimum work, especially over the winter because it's a seasonal sport.
Yep.
To prep yourself for a riding summer, and let's be honest. I mean, we're not Tristan Hart. We're not getting ready for Romaniacs or Erzberg or whatever. We're just riding
Right.
weekend group rides and maybe some cross country races here and there. So we can still train the week of an event, no problem at all. I could train on a Friday and go race on a Saturday. I'm not out there to break any course records. So,
Right.
um, but for me, I look at it as just injury prevention, and then having the ability to recover, and truthfully, just enjoy it more.
Yeah.
Like you and I have ridden together, and we've been in the woods when things are getting tough, and we've seen guys struggle and some guys don't, and it's like, well, are you still having fun? Maybe you are. Maybe that's what guys are looking for, but man, it's a hell of a lot more fun when you're fit, and you're not dying in the woods. You're
Yeah.
still having fun riding the bike. So that's what
Yeah.
I thrive for.
Right. What would be like your kind of top three or so most important moves that you would use for dirt biking?
Yeah, kettlebell swings for me. Um, any variation of a kettlebell swing is, I think, awesome. It's that sort of posterior chain development, when you're on a bike.
Yep.
I do a lot of like Romanian deadlifts as well. I
Yep.
find that like keeping my hamstrings really strong,
Yep.
um, because we are kind of dragging our heels quite a bit, as we're riding
Yep.
and leveraging the bike and um, core, core strength for sure. Having the ability to kind of work the bike and stay balanced on the bike. Um, those would be, and a little bit of upper body strength. I mean, we're not as efficient on a bike as Tristan Hart. I listened to Tristan on this podcast, and you know, like we use our lats probably a hell of a lot more than he does, and because
Yes.
we're basically doing pull-ups all day on our handlebars
Yeah.
and push-ups all day on our handlebars, and so we definitely need some upper body work. But
Yep.
big thing for me would be just like squat,
Yeah.
kettlebell swings, and Romanian deadlift. Make sure that those posterior chain muscles are really engaged and strong.
Yep. Awesome. That's awesome to hear that. I
Yeah,
agree. Agree. And core strength. And of course, like a sprinkle of cardio.
yeah,
Um, just looking at the time there, a couple more
yeah.
questions so we don't run too late. What would you do leading up to like a big event? Like if you're going into Romaniacs again or any of your big events, what would you do kind of leading up to that?
Yeah. I mean, I sort of attack my weaknesses for an event. So like if I'm doing a rally race, um, I'm not a really fast rider, but I know I have to increase my speed on a rally because you're doing more kind of open road stuff. So I'd work on that, like skill development. If I'm going to Romania, I'm certainly working on trials riding skills and hill climbing and things like that. So that kind of looks after like the skill development side. And
Right.
then I also look at like the climate you're going into. So Romania was like extremely hot, like really hot and humid.
Hmm.
Um, I think it was like high 30s the one day we were in the woods, pushing bikes. And so knowing that, I did a ton of sauna work leading up to it. I tried to get really kind of good at heat.
Yeah. You got your
Um,
bike in the
I
sauna.
do. I actually have a stationary bike in my sauna, but I would do like kettlebell swings and push-ups and squats, and
Yeah,
So I'd put
nice.
together like 30 to 45-minute workouts, inside the sauna, not crazy heat, but
Right.
just in the heat
Enough. Yeah.
enough. And then, and then the other thing is my nutrition too. Like I would, if I knew I was going to do some long days, and I would start to really kind of go on a real low carb, kind of more fat adapted kind of diet.
Mhm.
Um, I wasn't really trying to get into like ketosis or anything. Like I wasn't testing my blood and stuff, but I certainly, knew that I was going to have to go long stretches without a lot of food, and I
Right.
wanted my body to be efficient at burning fat.
Yes.
So like a month before, I would really kind of cut down on carbs and just kind of load proteins and fats in, and try to kind of do that for a few weeks,
Right.
and then when you do get some carb into you on race day or event day, like it's amazing what a Cliff Block will do or whatever when you're not used to carbs, right?
Right.
Just get it.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
just like a shot of adrenaline in your arms.
Yeah.
So, those would be the three things: skill development, heat training if you're going somewhere warm, and then think about your nutrition. Dial in your food, period. Like even if you don't
Yeah.
believe in like
Even if you're
keto adaptive,
not going to races.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, dial in your food.
But,
Understand on a weekend ride how much food you have to bring in your backpack.
yep.
Kind of keep yourself moving all day, and water, obviously, but
Yeah.
electrolytes and all
And
that kind of stuff.
yeah, absolutely. Um, what would you say, if any, would be the biggest lesson that fitness has taught you over your life of being an athlete? That's a
Gosh,
huge
that's a tough
question.
one. That's a
It's a big
huge
question.
question. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah, lesson. I think I don't know about a lesson. I know like the the biggest reward that I get out of it is I think is really just it's really good for my mental health. Like
Yeah.
that is when I go for a run, on the road, I do a lot of thinking. I solve a lot of world's problems, when
Yeah.
I'm out there
Yeah.
running through the woods or um, lifting weights. And like, yeah, when your day is not going so well and you're feeling kind of shitty, just to go out and do a little something, you get the positive endorphins flowing. And,
That's right.
you know, I, I really do believe that's what that I go after all the time. It's less sort of vanity and trying to like look good. It's more about just like, where's my head at? How
Mm,
do I feel when I'm done?
right.
And that's always my motivator, I think.
Yeah.
Because I feel shitty when I'm not training.
Totally.
Like everything hurts. My joints all hurt. My
Yeah.
mood is low. My gut feels awful. Like, but when I'm fit and training and moving and everything just sort of flows, at that point. And that's
Right.
that's the state I like to be in.
Amazing. Yeah. Yeah. The mental health piece to strength training or just generally fitness, whether that's, whether you're heavy into cardio or strength, I think either way,
Yeah.
um, what happens to your body when you're sweating and working hard towards something and you're fighting urges to quit
Yeah.
and, pushing through stuff, even if you're not doing like real extreme stuff, but just getting out there and doing that, and getting that blood flow and fresh air and all those pieces that come
Hmm.
with fitness play a huge role in mental health.
For sure.
I know it definitely has for me. Like I couldn't live without fitness. It is everything to me. And just I think for me, it's about hard work. That'd be the one lesson that I take away from it is I I learned what hard work is through fitness. You know, and there's nothing I've worked harder at, trying to
Yeah.
achieve various goals. And I think when you walk away from that, it's like if if I know I was in the gym and I lifted that thing or I accomplished that thing in the gym, that moves on to the rest of my life being like I know I can do something. I know I can put my mind to it and work at it and achieve it. And then
Hmm.
that can apply to all the other areas of my life to be like, if I can go get that, I can fucking go get that too.
Yeah.
And just learning, appreciating what hard work is.
You made me think. I agree with you on that. Like learning how to kind of fight and get uncomfortable, and
Yeah.
but patience, I guess, is something else. Like,
Ooh, good one.
talking about recovery from injury is one thing, but losing weight, training for a marathon or
Yeah.
5K, like you can't get it all in a week. You
No.
have to really be patient and take those little micro wins, those small little victories, and just keep building them up, building them up, building them up,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
understand that this is a 1 year, 2 year thing. And and I've translated that to moto. I mean, I've basically trained for 3 years to go over to Romania
Yeah.
and do that. That's how far out I sort of start planting the seed that I'm going to do this. And then I do all these other things for 2, 3 years to lead up to that, you know,
Yeah.
and it just being patient and understanding that, someday I'll get there, but I gotta wait for it. It'll come.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's as you said that, my legs started cramping, and I did 600 wall balls this morning.
What?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Well, I was texting you about
Oh yeah, your challenge.
burning the coals coming up, and I wasn't sure if I'm trying to bracket that in to see how many is reasonable to do for 28 days straight.
Jesus, yeah.
So I went at it this morning. I'll see how many I could do in 60 minutes, an hour. So I set just a mental kind of piece of doing 10 a minute every minute, like an EMOM
Right.
10 for 60 minutes. And I did 600 this morning.
Oh.
As you said, that my legs started cramping up. But it's such a great feeling. It makes me, it feels like you're alive, and,
It's interesting the mental workouts like you just did, those long kind of repetitive ones. I think there's a CrossFit workout. I think it's called Chad, which is a hero
yep,
workout, and it's just step ups on a box, and I think you do 1,000 step up. I
with
think
a weight vest. Yeah.
with a weight vest.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I haven't done it yet. I have to probably try it one of these days. But to me, that would be just like a total mental struggle,
Exactly.
just
And
repeating that over and over and
that's
over again.
when I talk about, for me, and this is just me personally, fitness has taught me hard work. That's a piece of that as well. I mean, like, it's not always sexy, it's not always exciting. In fact, most good programs are a little boring,
Yeah,
because you're just hammering the basics, and you need to be able to do that to succeed in life,
yeah,
I think, and in many other areas. And just sitting down and saying, I'm going to do 600 wall balls in an hour just because, or 1,000 box steps as fast as
yeah,
you can. There's the people that are always looking for that kind of flashy, exciting, what's going to,
yeah.
just change it up all the time. I think it's a different mindset than being able to just sit down and do something that is difficult and challenging and not exciting. Like, if it's,
Yeah.
boring, it's even
They're
better. And I think there's
looking,
a ton of value out of that.
I think the people that kind of bounce around, they're looking for motivation, I feel,
Right.
and
Yes, absolutely.
you can't find motivation in a program.
No,
Like it has to
no,
come from within. Um,
discipline.
yeah, you have to kind of understand your reasons why you're going to do it, and then
Yeah.
that's bigger than the program, right? But um, I think every program to me, and they always say the best program is the one you
Yeah,
follow,
absolutely.
and sticking to it. And I've seen a ton of those people. I was a gym owner too, so people are 2 weeks here, 2 weeks there, and it's like just stick to a program,
Yeah,
and you'll see gains for a short time, and then you might have to tweak it after that, to hit another level or plateau. But um, get a coach, get a trainer, get a program to follow like yours, and
yeah,
stick to it, and just be patient, and the positive benefits are going to happen.
Absolutely. You learn a lot of lessons along the way too.
That's it.
Um, awesome, buddy. I got one one question from one of our viewers.
Okay.
Uh, he's thinking about getting an electric mountain bike. What's your take on e-bikes?
Oh yeah. Let me guess who that might be. That's probably one of
Yeah.
my friends up here.
He's got an accent, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
Not a fan of the
I
e-bikes.
here's the thing. I got a really good buddy that rides an e-bike, and every time he went for a ride, he was sending me his heart rate, like his results of his workout, and like he's trying to prove that he actually got a workout in, right?
Okay.
And I wasn't asking for this. This is him sending it to me. And
Yeah.
so the fact that he felt like he had to justify being on an
Yeah.
e-bike was
Kind
enough
of
for me
says
to say,
everything.
I'm just going to pedal, but I'm old school and I know it's coming, and it does get you outside, get outside, but yeah, I'm
I'll
still
pass.
pedaling my bike through the woods. Yeah.
Yeah.
If I want to go fast, I'm going to get on my dirt bike.
Yeah.
I'm going to ride my dirt bike. So
Yeah.
mountain bike's a different sport. Too funny.
Awesome, buddy. No, that was from Paul.
Yeah, old EP. He
Yeah.
knows.
Yeah. Awesome, dude. So let's wrap it up. What's next for you on the calendar? What's coming up in the next little while for you?
No, I don't have any events coming up. I'm actually going to have another surgery on my leg in March.
Okay.
I'm going to get all the hardware taken out of my leg,
Yeah.
and so I'm going to have another 6 to 8 weeks of recovery after that, and then I have a big bike tour planned again in the spring, in the end of May. Um, we're going to take the bikes and head down south on the big 890 adventure bikes, and
Nice.
then we'll see for summer. I'm not sure. I haven't signed up for anything. I want to make sure my leg is good enough to you know to get out there and get ready for the ride season again. So we'll see.
Awesome, dude. Well, I'm looking forward to following that on Instagram, as is anyone that's watching this. Always excited to check out your updates. Um, if anyone out there that's watching would like to learn more about my programming or have any questions around generally health and fitness at all, just always shoot me a message. Authority, you can always shoot me a message as much as you want. I try to talk to you every Friday as usual.
Yeah.
But just thank you so much for taking some time to chat with me today. I think it's been really beneficial. Hopefully someone can take some lessons away from this, but even more ideal, hopefully someone can take a little bit of motivation out of this, and go out there and take care of themselves. So thank you,
Yeah.
thank you,
Right
thank you.
on. Yeah. Thanks for having me, buddy. Appreciate you.
Okay. Yeah, we'll talk soon. Bye.
Cheers. See ya.